They drove off laughing, thinking it was just a joke. But when night fell, I realized I wasn't alone. I was 15 years old when my family left me stranded. I remember the heat that day, the way the sun burned against my skin, the smell of gasoline as their car sped off. I remember the laughter. Let's see if he can make it back. Then, silence. No car. No phone. No money. Just me, standing on the side of a road, hundreds of miles from home. At first, I thought it was a joke. A cruel prank. I waited. Minutes turned into hours. But they never came back. That's when I realized I was on my own. Panic set in. I checked my pockets. A few dollars, a dead phone. No idea where I was. No one to call. And the worst part? I knew this wasn't a mistake. They did this on purpose. I started walking. The road stretched for miles. I had no plan, no destination. Just one thought running through my mind, over and over again. Why? Why did they do this? Why did they hate me enough to leave me behind? And how the hell was I going to survive? The sun set. The air grew cold. I hadn't eaten all day. Every step felt heavier. Then headlights. A car slowed beside me. A window rolled down. A voice called out, "Hey, kid, you lost?" And just like that, my nightmare was only beginning. The car slowed beside me. I felt my heart hammering against my ribs. It was dark now. The road was empty. No streetlights. No buildings. Just endless asphalt and shadows stretching into the distance. And now this. A stranger. A voice I didn't recognize. "Hey, kid, you lost?" I didn't answer. I didn't move. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. But where? I had no idea where I was. No idea how far the next town was. And my legs, weak, exhausted, shaking, probably wouldn't get me very far. The driver leaned over, peering out the window. A man. Mid-40s, maybe. Unshaven. Eyes sharp. Something about him felt off. Too interested. Too eager. "It's late," he said. "Not safe to be out here alone." As if I didn't already know that. As if he wasn't making it worse just by being here. I took a slow step back. His eyes followed. A slow smile spread across his face. And that's when I knew this wasn't someone trying to help. This was someone who saw an opportunity. And I was it. I forced my voice to stay steady. "I'm fine." A lie. He didn't believe it. "You sure? I can give you a ride somewhere." His fingers drummed against the steering wheel. Waiting. Watching. Testing me. Seeing how easy it would be to pull me in. I took another step back. Then another. He didn't drive off. Didn't stop watching. I could feel the weight of his stare like something physical pressing against my chest. If I turned my back now, I knew he'd make a move. Then, another sound. Distant. Faint. Headlights appeared over the hill. A second car. Coming toward us. For the first time all night, I felt a spark of hope. The man's eyes flicked toward the approaching vehicle. His fingers tensed. And then, without another word, he drove off. I didn't breathe until the taillights disappeared into the darkness. Didn't move until I was sure he wasn't coming back. And, even then, I knew this wasn't over. Because that was just the beginning. And my family? They had no idea what they had just done to me. The second car passed by without stopping. Just a blur of headlights cutting through the night. For a split second, I thought about throwing myself into the road. Waving my arms. Screaming for help. But my body wouldn't move. And then it was gone. Just like that. And I was still alone. I forced myself to take a deep breath. The man was gone. The road was empty again. But the fear? The feeling that I was still being watched? That didn't leave. And the worst part? Something in my gut told me this wasn't over. I started walking again. Faster this time. Every crunch of gravel beneath my feet sent shivers up my spine. Every rustling in the trees made my pulse spike. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see headlights creeping up behind me. But nothing. Just endless darkness stretching ahead. And no way of knowing if I was even heading in the right direction. I tried to focus. Think. What was my plan? There had to be a town somewhere nearby. A gas station. A payphone. Anything. But my head was spinning. I was tired. Hungry. And worst of all, I was starting to lose hope. Then, in the distance, something, a flickering light. Small, barely visible, but real. I squinted. Was it a house? A gas station? It didn't matter. I had to get there. I had to keep moving. Because standing still? Waiting for something or someone to find me first? That wasn't an option. I picked up the pace. My legs ached. My throat was dry. Every part of me screamed to stop, but I pushed forward. One step, then another. Because the second I slowed down, the second I gave in to the exhaustion, I knew I wouldn't get back up. I walked for what felt like hours. The light got closer, brighter, and just when I thought I was almost there, I heard it. A sound in the distance. Low, steady, an engine. Coming back. Coming for me. I didn't think. Didn't breathe. I just ran. Because this time, I wasn't waiting to see what happened next. I ran. My legs burned. My lungs ached. But I didn't stop. Because behind me, the engine was getting closer. The same car. The same man. The headlights washed over me, stretching my shadow across the pavement. I didn't dare look back. I just kept running. The light I had seen earlier, it was close now. So close. But would I make it? I didn't know. I just knew I had to try. Gravel crunched as the car veered onto the shoulder. A door slammed. Heavy footsteps. Coming toward me. Faster. I pushed myself harder. I could see it now, a gas station. Old. Run down. But the open sign flickered weakly in the window. Someone had to be inside. Someone who could help. I stumbled into the parking lot, lungs on fire. The glass door was just ahead. I grabbed the handle, locked. No. No, no, no. I pounded against it. Fist slamming. Help. Please. Nothing. No movement inside. Just shelves of dusty snacks and an old radio crackling behind the counter. I was too late. Behind me. Footsteps. Getting closer. I turned, pressing my back against the door. And there he was. The man from the car. Standing at the edge of the lot, half hidden in the darkness. Watching. Waiting. Like he was enjoying this. I scanned the lot. No other cars. No payphones. No way inside. Just empty silence stretching in all directions. And him. Not moving. Not saying anything. Just waiting to see what I'd do next. A slow, sick feeling crawled up my spine. I wasn't getting inside. No one was coming to help. And he knew that. I was trapped. But if he thought I was just going to stand here and let him take me, he was dead wrong. I took a step back. Then another. And then I turned and ran toward the woods. Because if I couldn't escape in the open, I'd have to lose him in the dark. Branches whipped against my face as I ran. The trees swallowed me whole, darkness stretching in every direction. No streetlights. No houses. Just endless shadows and the sound of my own ragged breathing. But I couldn't stop. Because behind me, he was still coming. I could hear him now. Footsteps crunching against fallen leaves. Moving fast. Deliberate. Like he wasn't afraid of the dark. Like he knew exactly where I was going. I tried to be quiet. Tried to slow my breathing. But the panic was rising. And no matter how fast I moved, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was getting closer. A low voice called out. Not loud. Not angry. Almost calm. You're making this harder than it needs to be. My stomach twisted. I crouched behind a thick tree, pressing my back against the bark. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. I could barely hear anything over it. Except the sound of him getting closer. I needed to move. But where? I had no idea where these woods ended. For all I knew, I was running in circles. And if I ran straight into him, I wouldn't get another chance. I took a slow, shaky breath. Listened. Nothing. No footsteps. No voice. Just silence. Maybe he gave up. Maybe he left. I shifted slightly, peering around the tree. And that's when I saw it. A shadow. Not in front of me. Not behind me. But to my right. Where he shouldn't have been. He wasn't following me. He was circling me. Panic shot through me like ice. I bolted. Didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Just ran. through trees, over roots, deeper into the dark. Until suddenly, the ground was gone. My foot hit nothing but air. And before I could stop myself, I was falling. I crashed hard. The impact knocked the air from my lungs, pain shooting up my side. For a second, everything blurred, just ringing in my ears, and the cold bite of the ground against my skin. Then I heard him. Footsteps above me. Slower now. Steady. Like he knew exactly where I had fallen. Like he wasn't in a rush anymore. I tried to move. Pain flared through my leg. Not broken, but bad. I had landed in a ditch. Steep sides. Thick with brush. No easy way out. Trapped. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to breathe through the pain. I had two options. Stay here and wait for him to come down or get up and run. There was no time to hesitate. I grabbed onto a tree root, pulled myself up. Pain screamed through my ankle. But I kept moving, because if I didn't, he would catch me. Then, a sound. Not him. Not footsteps. Something else. Water. Somewhere nearby, there was running water. A river? A stream? I didn't know. But it meant an escape route. Because if I could get to the water, I could lose my trail. I moved as fast as I could, slipping through the underbrush. Every step was agony. But I didn't stop. Because above me, just beyond the ridge, I saw his silhouette. Standing still. Watching. Waiting. I ducked low, heart pounding. Had he seen me? Was he coming down? I held my breath, listening. Nothing. No movement. But he was still there, blocking my way back. Then, he took a slow step forward. Then another. Not running. Not searching. Just taking his time. Like he already knew how this would end. Like he was enjoying it. And that's when I realized. This wasn't just a random encounter. He had been waiting for me. And now? He was ready to finish what he started. I moved fast. Faster than the pain should have allowed. Branches clawed at my arms, my legs barely holding me up. The sound of rushing water was getting louder. Close. But so was he. I could hear him now. Steady footsteps crunching against the earth. No panic. No rush. Because he thought he had already won. I didn't look back. Didn't stop. Because if I did, it was over. Then, a break in the trees. Moonlight reflected off something moving. The river. My way out. I stumbled forward, nearly falling as I reached the riverbank. The water was dark, moving fast over jagged rocks. Cold. Deep. Dangerous. But staying on land? That was worse. I glanced back. He was at the edge of the trees now. A shadow standing still. Watching. Like he wanted to see what I would do. Like he knew I was out of options. His head tilted slightly. Almost like he was amused. Like this was just a game. And I was losing. A sick feeling crawled up my spine. He wasn't worried. Why? Did he think I wouldn't jump? Or worse, did he know something I didn't? I didn't wait to find out. I stepped into the freezing water, gasping as it hit my skin. The current pulled immediately, dragging me forward. I braced myself, gripping onto a slick rock. Just long enough to take one last look. At him. Still watching. Still waiting. Then, he did something that made my blood run cold. He reached into his pocket. Pulled something out. And smiled. Not surprised. Not angry. Just satisfied. Like everything was happening exactly the way he wanted it to. Like I was doing exactly what he expected. And that's when I realized. I wasn't escaping. I was walking straight into his trap. The river pulled me under immediately. Freezing. Violent. Unforgiving. My head smashed against something hard rocks, maybe. I gasped, but all that did was fill my lungs with water. For a second, I wasn't fighting anymore. Everything was spinning, my body twisting in the current like a rag doll. And then, I broke the surface, gasping, coughing, alive, but not safe. The current was too strong. It yanked me forward, slamming me against sharp rocks. Every breath was a battle. I barely had time to process what had just happened. Why was he smiling? Why didn't he stop me? And then it hit me. This wasn't me escaping. This was him getting rid of me. The realization sent a fresh jolt of panic through my body. He knew the river was here. He knew how strong the current was. And most importantly, he knew I wouldn't be able to fight it. I wasn't running away. I was disappearing. And he didn't have to do a thing. I kicked hard, struggling to reach the surface again. The river roared around me, drowning out my thoughts. I had to think. Fast. There had to be a way out. But I couldn't see anything except dark water and blurred trees rushing past. No shore. No rocks to hold on to. Just endless water pulling me deeper and deeper into the unknown. I twisted my body, trying to turn toward the riverbank. It was far. Too far. But I had no choice. I forced my arms to move. Kicked against the current. Fought for every inch. But the river was stronger. And I was getting tired. Fast. Then, a shape. Something ahead. I squinted through the water in my eyes. A fallen tree, jutting out across the river like a bridge. If I could reach it, I could pull myself out. I could survive. I pushed forward, using the last of my strength. 10 feet. 5. Almost there. Then I felt it. A sharp pull against my ankle. Something wrapped around my leg. Tight. Unrelenting. I was caught. Trapped. And just like that, I was sinking. I couldn't breathe. The water dragged me down, twisting me like I weighed nothing. My ankle caught on something. Rope? A branch? I didn't know. I just knew I was running out of time. I thrashed, twisting, kicking, but it only got tighter. The pressure in my lungs was unbearable. Everything in me screamed for air. But if I opened my mouth now, I'd never come back up. I reached down, my fingers fumbling through the dark water. Something rough wrapped around my leg. A vine. Thick. Strong. Unbreakable. It had snaked around my ankle like it was alive, pulling me toward the bottom. I clawed at it, trying to loosen its grip. But my strength was fading. My vision going dark at the edges. And for the first time all night, I thought, this is it. Then, a shape above me. A shadow standing at the edge of the river. Him. Watching. Waiting. Like he knew this would happen. Like he planned it. And that's when I realized. I was never supposed to make it out of here. Something inside me snapped. A final surge of panic. I wasn't dying here. Not like this. Not at his mercy. I reached down again, fingers shaking, and dug my nails into the vine. Pulled. Tore at it with everything I had left. And then, it snapped. I kicked upward with the last of my strength. My chest felt like it was going to burst. Everything was blurry. But then, air. I broke the surface, gasping, choking, dragging in breath after breath. I could barely keep my head up, but I forced my eyes toward the riverbank. He was gone. I didn't wait. Didn't think. I turned toward the fallen tree, using the current to push myself forward. Every movement hurt. Every second felt like it stretched forever. But finally, I reached it. I grabbed the branch, fingers slipping, but I held on. I pulled myself up, coughing, shaking, crawling onto solid ground. And only then did I finally look back. The river raged below me, wild and merciless. And in the distance, through the trees, I saw headlights. Moving. Slow. Deliberate. He was still out there. Still looking. And the night wasn't over yet. I collapsed onto the muddy ground, my body shaking uncontrollably. My clothes were soaked, my lungs burned, and every muscle screamed in pain. But I was alive. Barely. I lay there for a moment, trying to slow my breathing. But I couldn't rest. Not yet. Because through the trees, I still saw his headlights. Slow. Steady. Like he wasn't in a rush. Like he still believed this was going to end his way. I pushed myself up, fighting back a groan. I had to move. Had to get away before he circled back. But where? I had no idea where the river had taken me. No clue if I was closer to a town or even deeper in the wilderness. And my body? It was giving up on me. I forced myself forward. One step. Then another. Every movement sent fresh pain through me, but I didn't stop. Because if I did, he would find me. And this time, there wouldn't be a river to save me. Then, a sound. Not from the trees. Not from the road. From ahead. A distant hum. Faint, but real. Something man-made. Electric. Lights. A gas station. Hope surged through me. If I could just reach it, I'd be safe. I could call the police. Tell them everything. Make sure this was finally over. I stumbled toward the light, every step an effort. The gas station was small, but it didn't matter. It was real. And more importantly, it wasn't empty. Through the window, I saw a clerk behind the counter. A normal person. Someone who could help me. Someone who would listen. I forced my legs to move faster. Almost there. Just a few more steps. Then, headlights. Bright. Blinding. Pulling into the parking lot. A car. His car. Panic shot through me. He found me. I wasn't fast enough. And now? Now he was here. And I was trapped. Again. The car slowed to a stop. The engine idled. The door didn't open. He was just sitting there. Watching me. Waiting. Like he wanted to see what I'd do. I could run. But where? Back into the woods? That was what he wanted. I wouldn't survive another chase. I took a shaky breath. And then I made my choice. I walked straight to the gas station door. And I threw it open. The clerk looked up, startled. I must have looked like hell, soaking wet, covered in mud, shaking like a leaf. But I didn't care. Because I was inside. Safe. And then I spoke the words that changed everything. Call the police. Now. The police arrived within minutes. By the time they searched the parking lot, he was gone. Vanished. No car. No trace. Like he was never there. Like he had just disappeared. They took my statement. Asked questions. But I could barely process what had happened. The only thing I knew for sure? I had survived. And whoever that man was, he hadn't expected that. For years, I wondered if I'd ever see him again. If he'd ever come back to finish what he started. But he never did. And maybe that was the real victory. Because in the end, I walked away. And he lost.